Sunday, 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 Sunday school. Sunday, 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 Sunday. Sunday, 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 Sunday.
Hey guys, it's Miss Waynell from ThatSundaySchoolGirl.com. You already know I am basically like your super cool auntie who just happens to teach Sunday school, and I am here to get you ready for Sunday, February the 7th. You know that I always want to check on you and hope that you had a wonderful week. Mine was busy. And I know you're probably saying, well, Miss Waynell, you always say you're busy. And I am, but now I'm busy and I have an extra thing going on. So have you ever run for like student council at your school before or anything like that, or in any of your clubs to be a leader? Well, that's what I'm doing right now. I'm running for a position inside of my church. And so I've done my regular work, my family time, and now I have campaign stuff. So it's a busy time, but I'm really doing well and God is blessing me. And more than anything, I am happy, and I'm always happiest when I get to share these moments with you all. So let's talk about getting ready for Sunday school. This week, we're going to be talking about call to testify or call to evangelize. I don't know what your book calls it, but they essentially mean the same thing. And I told you last week that for the next few weeks, we're going to be looking at women in scripture. And I told y'all this too, I love Bible studies that are about women. If you don't already have the kid pack, ask your adult please to look down in the description box below, click the link, and they can grab that for you. There are a few activities that I think will really help you as you think about this lesson. And when we read Bible lessons, we're not just supposed to memorize the story, but we're supposed to know how we are to behave or things that we can learn from those individuals inside of those stories. In St. John chapter 4, verses 25 through 42. This is the story of the woman at the well. You may have heard about her before. Well, in this story, Jesus is moving from one place to the other. He's going to Galilee, and of course, he doesn't have a car or a bicycle. He's traveling on foot, and as you would imagine, traveling the distance, Jesus was, remember this, he was all God, but he was also a man. And you know, you and I get hungry, we get thirsty. So Jesus was thirsty. And as he goes through, when he travels, he could have gone the short route, but he takes the long way around because he really felt like he needed to go through a place called Samaria. That's going to be important. I need you to remember the city or the town of Samaria. So as he goes through, he sees a woman who is at the well. She has her water pot. That's what they would use to collect the water. You have to have something to put your water in when you bring it up out of the well. And it was also an interesting time of day. Normally, like if you play sports or anything, or if you are someone who likes to work out, you probably like to do it in the morning and not in the middle of the day when the sun is really hot, because it's just more comfortable. Well, that's the same thing with water. Women would normally go out and draw the water in the morning. So it was very different to see this woman at noon getting water. And so Jesus goes to her and he asks her for a drink of water. Now, I told you to remember that he went through a place called Samaria. The Samaritans were a different race, a different skin color, a different background than the Jews. Jesus was a Jew. And so this woman has a conversation with him, and thinks, hey, this is not normal. You know, I'm a Samaritan, you're a Jew. You know, we don't have dealing with each other. We're not friends. We don't hang out. We're very different people. And Jesus explains to her, like, if you knew who I was, not only would you have given me water, but you would have asked me for living water. And he's beginning to talk to her about changing the way that she's thinking about how she has a relationship with God, and really who can have a relationship with God. And so she continues to talk to him. And at one point he says, "Where is your husband?" And the lady says, "I don't have a husband." And Jesus says, "You're right." He tells her, in fact, you've had 5 husbands, not one. You've had 5 husbands, and you were somebody now. You have a guy now. He's like a boyfriend. He's not even your husband. Like, you live with him now, and he's not even one of the 5. And the lady is completely shocked. She realizes that she is not talking to a normal guy. She knows in that moment, like, whoa. In fact, she says, "I think I figured out that you are a prophet. Like, you're not a regular person." And she continues to talk with Jesus. And she says, again, she's talking about how different they are. Remember, He's a Jew. She's a Samaritan. And she's saying, we don't even worship in the same places. And Jesus explains to her that it's not about where we worship, but it's important how we worship. That those who worship God, whether you worship where you are or where I am or in the type of church I go to or the type that you go to, what matters is that we worship God in spirit and in truth. Well, that gets us down to our printed part of our lesson where we read in our packet. And she's continuing to talk to him, and she is expecting that a Messiah is going to come. And even though she knows that there's a prophet in front of her, she still doesn't realize that she is talking to Jesus Christ, the Messiah. And she's saying, listen, the Messiah is coming, and when he gets here, he's going to straighten all this out, because you keep telling me that, where I worship doesn't matter, that I got to worship in this way. And that's very different. Has anybody ever given you information and it was new and it just seemed so unbelievable? And you were just like, you know what? I tell you what, I know who knows the answer. And when they get here, they're going to tell me. Well, that's what she says to Jesus. And Jesus says, the one that you're looking for, I am him. This is me. I'm the one you're talking about. So the woman now she's in complete shock, right? Now, what I didn't tell you about was the disciples. Maybe you wonder, where were the disciples? We've only talked about Jesus. Normally, he wasn't alone, right? Well, the disciples had gone into the city to buy meat, just to have something to eat. So here come the disciples, and they see Jesus talking to this woman. And I continue to tell you that she was a Samaritan. He was a Jew. They were very different people. It was also not common for a man to be talking to a woman. And then remember, she's already had a lot of husbands. And so people probably look at her with a side eye. And so the disciples want to know, whoa, why is Jesus talking to her? But they never asked the question out loud. The woman is so excited about what she's heard from Jesus. She is so excited about the interaction that she's had with Jesus that she drops her water pot and she runs back into Samaria, back into her hometown to tell everybody, I need you to come and see a man. He told me everything about me. I didn't tell him about myself. I didn't tell him my background, and he knew everything about me. So she goes to tell, and that's what it means to be a witness or to evangelize or to testify. That means when you take your story of what God has done for you and you are willing to tell someone else about it. It doesn't mean that you have to be a preacher. You don't have to stand in front of lots of people. But look at this woman. She went into her city. And she didn't go to the pulpit and get a microphone, but she talked to anybody who would listen to her. She wanted something from them. Why do we share our testimonies? Well, we don't share them to brag on what God has done, but what we do is that we invite people to come and to get to know Jesus for themselves. And as they do that, God gives every single one of us our own testimonies. He knows what we need. Well, let's go back to those disciples for just a minute. Here they come back. They've got the food. They were shocked to see Jesus talking to the woman. And they said, Jesus, hey, come on, we got this food. You need to come and eat. And Jesus is explaining, I don't need that meat. That's not I have meat you don't even know about. So the disciples are thinking that Jesus really means chicken or steak or fish. So they're looking around well, who brought Jesus food? We just went to get the food. Who already fed Jesus? And Jesus explained to them that it's not just the meat that we eat, but the meat. Think about meat. We eat food. The meat that we eat really is about giving us nourishment. And Jesus says, what really makes me feel good is when I do the work that God has called me to do. I don't know about you, but that's what really makes me feel good, is knowing what God wants from me and doing it to the best of my ability and with all of my might. Jesus also explains this. And this is why I keep pointing out the differences, because sometimes when people are so different, we don't think about how we might be able to help each other, because sometimes we focus on those ugly differences like race, like gender, things that keep us apart. Well, think about Jesus and the woman. Jesus was a man. That was a good thing for him. He was a Jew. That was a good thing. But he was a thirsty man. He was a thirsty Jew. And the woman, the Samaritan, had the water pot that he needed. Jesus also didn't have the ability to draw from the well because That wasn't even his city. He couldn't just go to the well and start pulling out water. And she was a citizen. So sometimes we need to learn to think about how other people who may not be like us will still have something that I can add to them. And there's something that they can add to me. And we can all help each other and we can all benefit. Jesus also explains this to them. He says, like when you plant a garden, you know, sometimes if you've watched a flower pot or a garden, after you plant the seeds, you'll kind of see a little sprout that comes up. And Jesus says that sometimes we'll look at that sprout and we'll say, oh, you know, that needs 4 more months or that needs a few more weeks before it's ready to pull up. He's saying to them, when you see that sprout, when you see, that is the moment then for you to go ahead and grab what you see. Jesus is not literally talking about a garden or a harvest, but what he's saying is that when you see that little sparkle in someone's eye, that little thing that you know that they might be interested in learning about God, that you cannot wait, that you take your moment right then and never be ashamed to jump in and begin to use your voice and to testify and to talk about God. You might be the individual that wins someone to Christ. And so just like this woman who runs into the city, we learn in the lesson that so many people begin to believe on Jesus because of what she said. And then the people, once they began to see that Jesus was everything that this woman said, they had the opportunity to see for themselves. They wanted Jesus to stay around for a little while longer. So he stays 2 more days. And guess what? He kept talking to people and more people believed on Jesus. And that is what you and I are to do. God uses us as a special part of his plan to talk about the great things that he's done so that others will want to know him just like you and I do. Here is what I really want you to know. First, I want you to know that all of us can use our voices in ways that are powerful to speak about how good God is. Again, that's not preaching. You don't have to do long talking, but you can think about things that God has done and you can say good things about God. I want you to feel that all people matter to God. And remember, he does not make differences in us because of our race, because of our gender. God uses men, he uses women, and he does not make a difference again because we come from different backgrounds. Finally, I want you to find a way to be bold and share your testimony with others. God has done something for you. And I don't ever want you to make your testimony small. It doesn't matter how small you think it is. If it's something that you could not do for yourself, it is worth telling the world about it. That's our lesson for this week. I love you all so much. I will see you soon. Have a super week next week. Take care. Bye-bye.
Sunday. It's Sunday, 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 Sunday school. It's Sunday, 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 Sunday. It's Sunday, 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 Sunday school. Changing the way you see Sunday school with that Sunday school.